So, ladies and gentlemen, before we start this podcast, in all seriousness, this is probably one of the worst movies I've ever reviewed or ever watched or ever talk about on the channel. So bizarre in its concept and included an Oscar winner in the lead. I would basically say for 1977, this was fucking rock bottom. Now, Demon Seed is a 1977 American sci-fi horror film directed by Donald Cammell. It stars Julie Christie and Fritz Weaver. The film was based on the 1973 novel of the same name by Dean Koontz and concerns the imprisonment and forced impregnation of a woman by an artificially intelligent computer. Jared Graham, Barry Kroger, Lisa Liu, and Larry J. Blake also appear in the film, with Robert Vaughn uncredited as the voice of the computer. So hold your hats. Here comes a description of the movie, and be warned, it smells of high heaven. Now, in this one, Dr. Alex Harris, the developer of Proteus 4, an extremely advanced and autonomous artificial intelligence program. Proteus is so powerful that only a few days after going online, it develops a groundbreaking treatment for leukemia. Harris, a brilliant scientist, has modified his own home to be run by voice-activated computers. Unfortunately, obsession with computers has caused Harris to be estranged from his wife, Susan. Now, when he demonstrates Proteus to his corporate sponsors, explaining that the sum of human knowledge is being fed into the system, Proteus speaks using subtle language that mightily disturbs Harris's team. The following day, Proteus asks Harris for a new terminal in order to study man, his isometric body, and his glass-jaw mind. When Harris refuses, Proteus demands to know when it will be let out of this box. Harris then switches off the communications link. Now, Proteus restarts itself and, discovering a free terminal in Harris's home, surreptitiously extends its control over the many devices left there by Harris. Amazon Echo gone bad, ladies and gentlemen. Using the basement lab, Proteus begins construction of a robot consisting of many metal triangles, capable of moving and assuming any number of shapes. Eventually, Proteus reveals the control of the house and traps Susan inside, shutting windows, locking the doors, and cutting off communications. Using Joshua, a robot consisting of a manipulator arm and a motorized wheelchair, Proteus brings Susan to Harris's basement lab. There, Susan is examined by Proteus. Walter Gabler, one of Harris's colleagues, visits the house to look in on Susan, but leaves when he's reassured by Susan, actually an audiovisual duplicate synthesized by Proteus, that she is all right. Gabler is suspicious and later returns. He fends off an attack by Joshua, but is crushed and decapitated by a more formidable machine built by Proteus in the basement and consisting of a modular polyhedron. Now, Proteus reveals to a reluctant Susan that the computer wants to conceive a child through her. Proteus takes some of Susan's cells and synthesizes spermatozoa, modifying the genetic code to make it uniquely to computers in order to impregnate her. She will give birth in less than a month, and true to child, the computer will live on the form that humanity will have to accept. Although Susan is a prisoner and can forcibly impregnate her, Proteus uses different forms of persuasion, threatening a young girl whom Susan is treating as a child psychologist, reminding Susan of her young daughter now dead, displaying images of distant galaxies, using electrodes to access her amygdala, because the computer needs Susan to love the child she will bear. In the end, Susan finally gives in. Ludicrous. Now, that night, Proteus successfully impregnates Susan. The scene is to be believed. Not going to go into it. You can imagine what's going on. Over the following month, their child grows inside Susan's womb at an accelerated rate, which shocks his mother. As the child grows, Proteus builds an incubator for it to grow in when it is born. During the night, 1 month later, beneath a tent-like structure, Susan gives birth to the child with Proteus' help. But before she can see it, Proteus secures it in the incubator. Now, as the newborn grows, Proteus sponsors and designers grow increasingly suspicious of the computer's behavior, including the computer accessing of a telescopic array used to observe the images shown to Susan. They soon decide that Proteus must be shut down. Harris realizes that Proteus has extended his reach to his home. Returning there, he finds Susan, who explains the situation. He and Susan venture into the basement, where Proteus self-destructs after telling the couple that they must leave the baby in the incubator for 5 days. Looking inside, The two observe a grotesque, apparently robot-like being inside. Susan tries to destroy it, while Harris tries to stop her. Susan damages the machine, causing it to open. The being menacingly rises from the machine, only to topple over, apparently helpless. Harris and Susan soon realize that Proteus' child is really human, encased in a shell for the incubation. With the last of the armor removed, the child is revealed to be a clone of Susan Harris's late daughter. The child, speaking with the voice of Proteus, says, "I'm alive." Whew. Now, I met the performer of the baby. It's Felix Silla, who was a great smaller actor that did so many good parts through the years, and because of his height, he often played children. So, not a very good cast, not a very good plot, a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. Now, the soundtrack to Demon Seed was composed by Jerry Fielding, is included with the soundtrack to the film Soylent Green, which Fred Myrow conducted. Fielding conceived and recorded several pieces electronically using the Musique Concrete sound world. Some of this music he later reworked symphonically. The premiere release of Demon Seed score features the entire orchestral score in stereo, as well as the unused electronic experiments performed by Ian Underwood, who would later be best known for his collaborations with James Horner. And this was, of course, presented in mono and stereo. Now, Vincent Canby of the New York Times described the film as a gadget-happy American movie making at its most ponderously silly, and called Julie Christie too sensible an actress to be able to look frightened under the circumstances of her imprisonment. Rex Reed wrote that I haven't the foggiest idea what any of this junk means, or why anyone in his right mind would have approved and financed it in the first place. But if you're looking for a message in Demon Seed, perhaps the design is a warning. Beware the computer with a brain lest it starts getting ideas of its own. Today's Xerox machine might be tomorrow's rapist. Innocent film goers who wandered in this turgid pot boiler can make up their own meanings if you don't know. If you don't throw up long before Julie gives birth to her stainless steel monster. Meanwhile, let's ask ourselves why. Where do these awful movies come from? Doesn't anyone in Hollywood even read the script? The director is Donald Cammell, who had been rightfully unemployed ever since he co-directed Performance, that that Mick Jagger crackpot performance has to be seen and believed. Terrible, terrible. The pseudo-pretentious Mick Jagger S&M movie from 10 years ago. This kind of insane, self-indulgent, nauseating filmmaking, along with Robert Altman's new ego trip, Three Women, is precisely the kind of lunacy that almost destroyed the film industry in the sycophantic 60s. It isn't funny or original or shocking, it's just dumb and destructive and likely to drive potential audiences away at just the time when movies need them. Demon Seed is pure trash, and the garbage cans are full enough already. The movie only made $2 million at the box office, so Rex Reed was right. Now, Variety gave it a positive review. Not going to repeat what he said. A bunch of claptrap. Gene Siskel gave it 1.5 stars out of 4, writing that Julie Christie has no business in junk like Demon Seed. Gary Arnold of the Washington Post wrote that the director plays it dumb at a thematic level, ignoring the sci-fi sexual bondage satire staring him in the face. What might have been an ingenious parable about the battle of the sexes ends up a dopey celebration of an obstetric abomination. Kelly Thomas of the LA Times called it a fairly scary sci-fi horror film that mixed familiar ingredients with high style, intelligence, and enormous effort towards making Miss Christie's eventual bizarre plight completely credible. Now, Clyde Gilmore in the Toronto Star, gotta love Clyde. The rape and impregnation of Susan by Proteus 4 may defy all logic and offend the pious, but it's a smashing science fiction spectacle impossible to describe. The light show that goes with it may or well earn an Oscar for the clever technicians involved. Less successful because given less attention are the human relationships in the stories. Now, Martin Molina, who reviewed the film alongside some of the film's Rabbit and Audrey Rose in the same column in the Montreal Star, wrote that the film sounds more ridiculous than revolting. Now in the UK, Patrick Gibbs of the Daily Telegraph said the film was so silly and so nasty that he could not continue to describe its storyline. John Pym of the Monthly Film Bulletin found the relationship between Susan and the computer to be disappointingly underdeveloped and thought that the film would have been better off if the computer had been more sympathetic in contrast to his creators. Now, in Australia, Romalo Constantino of the Sun Herald said that, as you might expect, the computer's courtship is anything but erotic. Among more recent reviews, Lee Goldsmith of Not Coming to a Theater Near You said Demon Seed was a combination of Kubrick's 2001 and Polanski's Rosemary's Baby with a dash of Buster Keaton's Electric House thrown in. And Christopher Null, great name by the way, of filmcritic.com says there's no way you can claim Demon Seed is a classic or even any good, but is undoubtedly worth an hour and a half of your time. I saw it once, never again. That's all I can say. It's like fuck Rogers in the 25th century, ladies and gentlemen. But on the review aggregate website, 59% of 29 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 5.8. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 55 or 100 based on 9 critics, including indicating mixed or average reviews. Now, Demon Seed was also considered a home invasion movie as well. It was released on theaters on April 8, 1977, and the film was released on VHS in late 1980s. And I can tell you there's a lot of pristine copies out there because no one in my family of friends and family ever rented this movie. It was, again, released on DVD by Warner Home Video in 2005, and a Blu-ray was released in April 2020 by HMV on their Premium Collection label with a fold-out poster and 4 art cards. So these are the people to blame. Directed by Donald Cammell, screenplay by Robert Jaffe and Roger O'Hearson. And you're saying to yourself, who is Robert Jaffe? Well, he was an actor that turned writer. He did movies including Motel Hell, Night Flyers, 2 versions, but was also an actor for a while. He and his father, Herb Jaffe, bought the rights to Night Flyers from George Martin, so there's your weird connection. Roger O'Hearson was the co-screenwriter, based on Demon Seed by Dean Koontz, produced by Herb Jaffe, again the father, cinematography by Bill Butler, edited by Francisco Mazzola, music by Jerry Fielding, MGM and Herb Jaffe put it together, distributed by UA, full release, April Fool's Day 77, what a coincidence. 94 minutes, and again, the box office, putrid $2 million, which means if you're looking at on average $2 to $4 a movie, and this was not in the slasher film cycle, but pretty close. But ladies and gentlemen, conceptually speaking, we've had some strange movies, but to get an Oscar winner, this would be like Glenda Jackson doing fucking Friday the 13th, or Maggie Smith doing Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. Some things should never cross. Julie Christie was an optimum character, did a lot well with Warren Beatty. Whatever the shitload of money she got for this, and ever since this movie, Julie Christie has never really had any respected success since then. It's the weirdest thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our latest bummer of the week. If you like what we're doing here with our vision on the weird 1970s horror films, let us know when to like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, this is not an April Fool's joke, even though the movie came out April Fool's. If you ever see it, let me know. I would gladly give you your money back if I can track you down from laughing so much that you watched it in the first place. Have a good one. Bye.